This is the story of Robin Hood. Once upon a time, there was a man named Robin Hood. He lived in Nottingham Forest with a bunch of other full-grown men who spent all their time fighting with sticks, playing words with woodsmen, and binge drinking with the local priest. But while Robin and his men were having fun in the woods, the people in town were being taxed into poverty by Prince John. He used all the money throwing hedonistic bunga-bunga parties which he acquired a taste for during the Crusades. He also liked to collect exotic chastity belts. Prince John hired the Sheriff of Nottingham to collect the taxes. He used to be a debt collector for credit card companies, so he was really good at being an annoying dickhead. He'd always call right when you sat down to dinner, and he'd call like 20 times a day, and he'd even call your job claiming to be your bookie. Robin Hood didn't know about any of this because he was totally off the grid. The only phones they had were 2 tin cans connected by a string. But one day, the priest ran out of beer because the townsfolk couldn't afford to pay their donations to the church. The townies thought that the church was wiring their money directly to God to absolve them of their sins, but really it was just used to buy beer and flip cup supplies. And suddenly, Robin and his merry men weren't exactly merry anymore, so they decided to take matters into their own hands. When the Sheriff of Nottingham was going around prying rent from the local merchants, Robin and his men snuck up behind him and totally pantsed him, tied him up, and gave him a wicked swirly, which in those days consisted of throwing him in a 10-foot pit filled with shit. Medieval plumbing. Then they took the money and used it to throw a huge kegger in the woods with all the townspeople, and it was bananas. Imagine Coachella but with donkeys, pitchforks, wenches, and mensches. A mensch is a male wench. Anyway, it was so crazy that it competed with Prince John's bunga-bunga parties. Even Maid Marian went to go see what all the excitement was about, and she was the hottest girl in the whole kingdom. But when she got there, they told her to go home because no girls allowed, and that pissed her off because she'd just gotten waxed, and not even a regular one, but a full Brazilian. Not to mention, she was super excited to show off her new V-neck bodice that she'd got that morning at Forever 13. So, she went back and told Prince John what was going on, and he was like, "Of course they kicked you out. They're a bunch of bloody buggers." "But I thought they were merry men," exclaimed Maid Marian. "Nope, bloody buggers, the lot of them," said Prince John. "And you're dressed like a perfect little trollop. Have you ever considered modeling chastity belts?" And so, Prince John and Maid Marian lived happily ever after, and Robin Hood and his men eventually grew out of their partying phase and ended up running a strip mall with small bars and art boutiques. The Sheriff of Nottingham was found 900 years later in a construction site. He was perfectly preserved in an ancient block of human fecal matter. Come back next time, and I'll tell you the tale of the little Dutch boy who stuck his finger in the wrong hole.
Going to the bathroom in a romper requires more stretching than a yoga class.
Hashtag girl problems. What's a romper?
I don't know what a romper is.
Don't know what a romper is? I'll tell you. It's a skirt that's really short, but it's also a dress. Hashtag one less girl problem.